In December 2011, the last group of US soldiers left Iraq and ceded control of the country to the Nouri al-Maliki government. A Shiite prime minister was backed by the Iranian regime. By withdrawing from Iraq, President Obama was hopeful that the US could finally disengage from the wars and crises in Iraq and the Middle East.
Everything that American troops have done in Iraq, all the fighting and all the dying, all of it has led to this moment of success.
During the withdrawal of US forces, Obama invited Maliki to Washington, introducing him as the prime minister of a democratic and inclusive government and expressing his satisfaction with the stability and calm in Iraq.
Today I'm proud to welcome Prime Minister Maliki, the elected leader of a sovereign, self-reliant, and democratic Iraq. What we have now achieved is an Iraq that is self-governing, that is inclusive, and that has enormous potential.
As the US left Iraq, Iran sensed that its dreams of expansion could now be realized. As Iran's allies in Iraq were now in complete control, Tehran had power over significant parts of the Middle East, from Lebanon to Baghdad. However, this dream of reconquest did not last long. In neighboring Syria, the People's Uprising, which had erupted in March 2011, was on the brink of toppling Iran's strategic ally, the Bashar Assad regime. Iran was forced to act to save the Assad regime.
به دلیل شرایط خاصی که در منطقه در کشورهای لبنان و سوریه وجود داشته، تعدادی از نیروی قدس در اونجا حضور داشتند.
Using the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force, the Lebanese Hezbollah and dozens of Iraqi Shiite militias under its command, the Iranian regime quickly intervened in Syria and participated in the widespread massacre of Syrian people. With Iranian support for the Syrian government forces, the situation in Syria took a dramatic turn for the worst as combatants became significantly more radicalized. As the Free Syrian Army and other moderate opposition groups became increasingly weakened, extremist elements such as Nusra Front and ISIS grew stronger. In Iraq, following the US troops' withdrawal, the Maliki government stepped up its repressive and sectarian policies. As a result, in the Sunni-populated regions, protests erupted. The Maliki government suppressed protesters with renewed brutality, and murders of political opponents became frequent. The Sunni minority in many regions rebelled against this undemocratic behavior. By the spring of 2014, ISIS forces, which had already emerged, grew strong in Syria and began exploiting the rebellion against the central government in the Sunni regions of Iraq. They took over important Sunni-populated cities, including Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq, obtaining dominance over many strategic areas in both Iraq and Syria. Iranian regime was now faced with serious challenges, for the central government in Baghdad was losing its hold over its neighbors, while at the same time the US with other Arab countries were willing to intervene to combat ISIS. Both prospects would undermine Iranian hegemony in Iraq. The Iranian regime tried to turn this situation to its advantage, to use the combat against ISIS as a pretext and justification to increase its military presence and influence in Iraq. Iran's Quds Force sent many commanders and thousands of armed men to Iraq to help mobilize and reorganize its proxy Shiite militias under a new entity called Hashd al-Sha'bi, meaning Popular Mobilization Units, or PMU. The PMU commander, Hadi Amiri, has publicly declared that his forces do not need the Iraqi government's permission to operate. The PMU is under the ultimate command of Ghassem Soleimani, the head of Iran's Quds Force, With many thousands of armed men in nearly 50 militia organizations, the PMU is stronger than the Iraqi National Army. Some of these groups were formed by the Iranian regime during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s. Others were formed after Saddam's overthrow and had been used to fight against American presence in Iraq or to suppress Sunnis by taking part in sectarian conflicts. Since 2012, the Iranian regime has formed many new paramilitary groups, recruiting Shiites and dispatching them to Syria to help the Assad regime stay in power. Since 2014, by recruiting Iraqi Shiites under the pretext of confronting ISIS, Tehran has created additional militias to strengthen the popular Mobilization Units, PMU. In total, the regime now controls close to 50 armed militias in Iraq. In this report, we look at the three most powerful of them, all created by the Iranian regime. Iran's most powerful proxy in Iraq is the Badr organization, which has its own militia. Badr is led by Hadi al-Amiri, who was previously a member of Iran's Quds Force. Badr has a parliamentary branch and has been a fixture of successive governments since the invasion of Iraq in 2003. Currently, a number of Iraqi ministers are Badr members. Amiri was a minister in the Maliki government and in the last election won a seat in parliament with only 20,000 votes, most of them fraudulent. This photo shows Amiri accompanying Maliki at the White House during their visit to Washington in December 2011. These photos show Amiri with Ghassem Soleimani, the commander of the Iran's Quds Force, during recent operations in Iraq. Badr's allegiance to the Iranian regime is so publicly well known that it displays pictures of the Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei openly in its public gatherings. Here is a report by the Iranian state TV. It shows Amiri, the leader of the Iraqi Badr organization, kissing Khamenei's hand. In December 2014, Khamenei's Twitter account published a picture of Amiri after he attended Khamenei's Ashura, Shiite religious ritual, mourning ceremony in Tehran. The Badr was founded 32 years ago by the Iranian regime's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, in order to fight against Saddam and to conduct terrorist operations inside Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. At that time, in 1982, the IRGC organized a number of Iraqi prisoners of war into what was dubbed as the Badr Division. It was later strengthened and turned into the Badr Brigade. Here is an Iranian state-run TV report discussing the creation of the Badr Brigade.
اما بعد مسئولیت اسماعیل سنگین شد و شد فرمانده تیپ. آن هم چه تیپی؟ تیپ بدر. تیپ بدر اولین یگان رزمی متشکل از مجاهدین و توابین عراقی.
من دیدم خب ما مجاهدین عراقی رو داریم، منتها اون استفاده لازم رو ما از اینا نمی کنیم. اکثرا در اختیار خود علمای عراق هستن، علمای مبارز عراق مثل شهید حکیم و آقای شاهرودی و دوستان دیگه هستن. نکته دیگری که به ذهن ما اومده بود، ما دیده بودیم از خود کسانی که اسیر میشن از عراق، خیلی از اینا آمادگی دارن که علیه صدام بجنگن. لذا آقای اسماعیل دغایقی رو مأمور کردیم تیپ بدر رو درست کنه. تیپ بدر متشکل بود از مجاهدین عراقی و احرار، یعنی سربازان و افسران عراقی که آمادگی داشتن، داوطلب بودن که علیه رژیم عراق وارد نبرد بشن.
Hadi Amiri traveled to Iran during the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s and became a member of the IRGC's Quds Force and later became a Badr official. 2 years before the US invasion of Iraq, Amiri became the Badr's chief commander. This is a Badr Brigade propaganda video clip praising the founder of Islamic Republic, Ayatollah Khomeini. Subsequent to Saddam's overthrow, since the US had called for the dismantling of armed militias, the Badr Brigade renamed itself the Badr Organization in order to operate as a political organization. It merged part of its armed forces into the Iraqi army and security institutions, a move that helped Amiri and the leadership of Badr to dominate these institutions. Over the past 12 years, the Badr organization has played a key role in carrying out the Iranian regime's strategy in Iraq to control security and military institutions and to suppress and purge their opponents. A US Embassy report from Baghdad, revealed by WikiLeaks and dated May 2008, states the following regarding Amiri, the Badr leader. Amiri is widely known to have played a leading role in organizing attacks by the Badr Corps militia, the strongest, most disciplined Shia militia at the time and precursors to the current Badr organization, against Sunnis during the sectarian violence of 2004-2006. Sources indicate that he may have personally ordered attacks on up to 2,000 Sunnis. One of his preferred methods of killing allegedly involved using a power drill to pierce the skulls of his adversaries. One of the most deadly terrorist militias created by the Iranian regime in Iraq is the Kataib Hezbollah, which was formed in 2007 by the Quds Force as an instrument to confront the US military and to suppress Sunnis. The commander of this group is Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis, whose real name is Jamal Jafar Mohammed Ali al-Ibrahimi. Before the fall of Saddam Hussein, al-Muhandis was the commander of the Badr Brigade in Iran. He is now Soleimani's chief military assistant in Iraq. Kataib has hundreds of armed members and uses them for special operations, terrorist activities, and for the suppression of any opponents of the Iranian regime in Iraq. This is a photo of Abu Mahdi al-Muhandis with Ghassem Soleimani and Hadi Amiri during a recent military operation in Iraq. And here is a video of al-Muhandis with Hadi Amiri during a military operation in late October 2014. Al-Muhandis went to Iran in the early 1980s and became active in the extraterritorial operations of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. He led terrorist operations against the Kuwaiti royal family and the US and French embassies in Kuwait, after which he returned to Iran. While in Iran, he became the commander of the Badr Brigade from 1991 to 2001. In 2001, as the US began planning the invasion of Iraq, the Iranian regime transferred the command of the Badr Brigade to Amiri in order to dedicate al-Muhandis to special operations inside Iraq. Following the US-led strike, the Quds Force tasked al-Muhandis with commanding terrorist networks and maintaining contact with those armed groups that fought the US Army in Iraq. In 2005, Iran used its proxy groups, the Islamic Supreme Council of Iraq and Badr, to secure a seat in parliament for al-Muhandis in order to provide him with diplomatic and political cover for his terrorist activities. In 2006, his terrorist activities against the US military and close ties to the Quds Force were exposed, and he was forced to flee to Iran. However, he frequently visited Iraq in secret and led terrorist operations. The United States placed al-Muhandis and his militia, Kataib Hezbollah, along with a number of other Quds Force commanders, on its terrorist list. After the US withdrew from Iraq, al-Muhandis officially returned to Iraq. In addition to being Kataib's leader, al-Muhandis has played a key role in forming a number of other Shiite militias, including the Kataib Imam Ali and the Kataib Sayyid al-Shohada. Asaib Ahl al-Haq is a powerful Shiite militia formed by the Iranian Quds Force in 2006, which has thousands of armed followers. In 2006, Iran realized that the Mahdi army, led by Muqtada al-Sadr, had become hard to control, so the Quds Force organized a number of Mahdi army officers and followers into a new organization called Asaib al-Haq. Its leader, a mullah named Qais Khazali, is a former Sadr associate. Asaib al-Haq was created to conduct military operations against American and British military and to participate in the suppression of Sunnis. In 2007, Asaib murdered 5 U.S. servicemen in Karbala. Khazali was subsequently arrested and imprisoned by the coalition forces. In 2010, Asaib took a British officer hostage and ultimately traded him for a Khazali. This photo shows Khazali with the Quds Force commander Ghassem Soleimani. Khazali's deputy is a mullah named Mohammed Tabatabai in military uniform with Soleimani during a recent operation. In the first week of November 2014, Khazali and Tabatabai went to Iran to express allegiance to Khomeini. In several interviews with state-run media outlets in Iran, Khazali and Asaib leaders openly expressed allegiance to the Iranian regime's supreme leader. This photo shows the Asaib leaders in Qom during a meeting with the city's clerics. Since 2012, some Asaib forces were dispatched to Syria to support Bashar Assad. Asaib is notorious for its brutality. In recent months, during conflicts with Sunni groups and ISIS, they have killed and beheaded their victims in front of journalists. In August 2014, Asaib was accused by Sunni leaders of ordering a bomb attack against a Sunni mosque, which killed dozens of people praying inside. International human rights organizations have accused Asaib of committing crimes against humanity.